Hi, everybody. Snitch Racer here again for the fourth episode in the Snitch Racer Dungeon podcast. Today, I'm going to actually have four subjects. The first being me talking about vector marketing. I had a job offer through them. I'll get into that in more detail. I want to celebrate the fact that the Edmonton Oilers are in the finals. They start their first game tonight, the Stanley Cup finals, that is. I want to briefly talk about as well the sports gambling, uh, I'd say issue almost at this point in Ontario. Uh, we'll get into that more. And of course, the fourth subject, though, of the day is just me being excited about this upcoming race weekend. And by the way, before we get into the first subject, I just want to mention that this will hopefully be the last podcast where I have to use a headset as a microphone. I hopefully will be able to obtain a new one once I get paid for my new job, so look forward to that. All right, let's get this first subject out of the way here, a bit more negative, but I had to mention vector marketing because I want to warn people about this very weird company. So essentially, I've been applying for jobs for the last few months. I got I found a job posting, from Vector Marketing that was quite vague. It just said Vector Marketing, and then I sent in my resume, and I shit you not even an hour later, they texted me offering me an interview, which was the first red flag. I thought that was a little weird, especially because the person didn't even say their name. They just said, I'm someone from Vector Marketing, just someone. Didn't say their name or anything. First red flag I should have known. So going into it, my expectations were low, but I still expected it kind of to be an actual real job that could pay you well, and that's not the case. When I get into more detail, you'll see what that is. You'll see what I'm talking about. Vector Marketing, though, basically their entire marketing firm, or whatever the heck you want to call it, sells knives from a company called Cutco. Now, what Cutco is a knife company. They sell cutlery, mostly knives, and they do actually seem like great products. They're like really good knives. They come with a lifetime guarantee, which is kind of great. When I did research on customer satisfaction and stuff, then the product itself, like I said, is very good. The customers like it a lot. So when I saw that, my hopes kind of went up a little bit. I'm sure it would be weird. The marketing company, I'm sure, has annoying practices kind of thing, but the product maybe sells itself. It can't be that bad. Well, I couldn't be more wrong. So Cutco has been selling knives since 1949. It was sometime in the 80s. Forgive me, I can't remember the exact date, or the year rather. It was sometime in the 80s where Vector Marketing actually took over and started selling the Cutco knives exclusively. So other than their actual website itself, Cutco's website, which you would just go to directly, they don't actually advertise their website anywhere. Other than their website, the only way to buy their product is through Vector Marketing. So Vector Marketing has that market completely cornered for selling Cutco products. Like I said, I was offered an interview immediately via text, which is already strange, a bit sus. And then it was only like a few days later, they said, this Saturday, it's going to be a video interview. Fine, that's normal. I've been doing way more video interviews than in-person interviews lately, even well after COVID. So that part was fine. But then I started doing research on Vector Marketing itself through YouTube videos, and I started to get a bit scared once I searched Vector Marketing, and the first thing that comes up under suggestions is it a scam? And long story short, it's not really. I wouldn't go as far to say that it's a scam. You do get paid for what, they are telling you exactly how you get paid. So it's not a scam. That's a bit of an overused word, but sketchy and not very fair in the way they pay you is a better way to describe it there. And that's the impression I got off those YouTube videos. So basically people were saying, don't work for here, they'll barely pay you, don't work for here. Saw lots of stuff like that. I also saw the stereotypical, if you work for this company, you'll be a millionaire in 7 days kind of weird stuff. like that. So I was like, okay, this is weird. I'll still go into the interview and see what it's like myself. So, and I even took like, I'll probably read off some of these notes here. I have like 2 pages of notes that I took during the interview that I want to get into more detail in a bit. But to the interview itself, now, first of all, they never even mentioned the fact that it was going to be a group interview until the day of, where they kind of mentioned something about us being in a group. But I already knew that because in the videos that I watched, they had the same experience. Every one of the videos I watched, they didn't tell them they were going to be in a group interview. So they call it a group interview. It's really not even an interview. Quite literally, they just give you like a presentation of their company for about 30, 40 minutes via video. They got all the corny, like, we're a team. We like to do all these office games and come be part of us. All that like corny stuff that makes me cringe. They had all that right away. The guy himself seemed cool. The guy interviewing seemed like a genuine guy. So they had their little interview there. So give me a second while I look into what they mentioned during the interview. Let me just read over my notes here and I'll get back to you. All right, so right off the bat, the very first thing they talk about here is just what they're looking for in a candidate. They want a can-do attitude, strong work ethic. They want someone responsible, cooperable, which is a word they used. I don't even know how to say it, but it was a really corny word they made up, I'm assuming. It's some crappy business word, cooperable. I can't even say it, but you know what I mean, cooperable, which isn't a word, but they use that genuinely, which made me laugh a little bit. But they're like, and then they talk about the Cutco product, why it's amazing. It's the #1 selling knife in North America. The majority of sales are one-on-one through you. You're the guy. You're the first one to sell the product. You're the product. All that crap. The Cutco product itself is unionized, which is nice. These are all things they mention before they even talk about what the job is or how you're getting paid or anything like that. So again, they're not even telling you before even telling you anything. The very first thing, or before telling anything about how you get paid, the very first thing they also tell you is, what we actually want you to do is sell to your mom or your dad. That's the first person they want you to sell to. Like, oh. Nah, that's just fucked. I even told my mom that. She's like, yeah, okay. Like that's just right away. As soon as I heard that, I was like, okay, well, I'm just gonna listen to the rest of this interview. I'm out, man. I'm not this I'm constantly selling to literally my family crap. So that right away. Then they mentioned like, yeah. So yeah, you're just gonna sell to your mom and your dad, and then you're gonna open up to your friends and other family members, people you're comfortable with. Comfortable. You know what that really means, in my opinion? Just people that we're going to be more susceptible to buying your product out of pity, stuff like that. Because you go up to your grandma or something, and she's like, "Oh, Sonny, I guess I'll buy one just to support you." That's what they're betting on, in my opinion. So that makes me be able to segue into how you do sales. So what are the things they immediately mention, or one of the things they mention right after that is you will make money even if you don't make a sale, which already, again, another red flag. The fact that they actually have to mention that you will get paid even if you're not making sales is crazy, considering that's how every job works essentially, except maybe real estate, I guess, but that's a whole different animal. How it works is you get paid, what's the actual number? $25.25 per presentation. Now, they claim every presentation's only going to take 45 to 60 minutes. That's what they claim. Through my research, people said it literally can take anywhere from 30 minutes to like 3-4 hours, because it depends on the person, obviously. You're not going to, like, if they have a bunch of questions, you're not going to like cut them off and be like, yeah, sorry, I made it to the end of my 45. I want my $25. Bye. Can't do that, obviously. So again, you make that. And then on top of that, you do make a commission. They claim that the average order sale is $350. Now, forgive me, I did not write down the full commission numbers, but it was something like 20 to 30%. It was pretty freaking high. Uh, the only issue is obviously, like, let's say I only make like 3 sales a week. That's not very much money. And the other issue being that, let's say you're only getting paid for the presentation, right? You're not getting paid for everything else. You're not getting paid to set up the meeting. You're not getting paid to find new customers, nothing. You're just getting paid for the hour presentation that I'm sure takes way more than an hour. So that's my humongous issue with that. So stay the hell away from this company. Unless you're like a sales guru, I guess you could probably do it. I don't know. I don't really want to suggest supporting the company. The other thing is that really annoyed me about that, and it's red flag number 3, is that they told me you have to use a script. You have to. You can't go off script. You have to use a script every time you make a presentation, which to me just comes off as A, suspicious, and B, just not very genuine. It's like they figured out a way to figure out the human brain so they can get a sale. I don't like that stuff. I want to be able to, do my own thing, like with, like, for example, the job that I just got, one of the things that I'll have to do is sell credit cards. They'll have suggestive things to say during those credit card sales, but how I present myself and what I exactly say is completely up to me. And it's not the only thing I'm going to be doing, so the pressure isn't as much. But yeah, so that's the problem. And they have that freaking script, which, as he was saying that, it made me realize that this entire interview process is a script. The way this guy's talking is a script. Everything he's saying is scripted. Everything, apart from one thing, which it was a video interview, and halfway through the interview, I was just kind of chilling, and then my cat jumped up behind me like this, and I was just petting him like that. And the interviewer guy, shit you not, was like, "Yo, Jack, nice cat." Well, except he called me Jake, because he called me Jake during the entire interview, so shout out to that. Thanks, bro, for calling me Jake until the literal last minute of the interview. So, once they do their little crappy presentation spiel that basically, you got to work for this company, it's the best, we got all these office dumb things. And then they're like, at the end, they're like, yeah, you got to come. Man, like, you'll be able to work from home, but every week you can come into the office and have, socks and sandals day and stuff like that. Woo, sounds fun. You know what's not fun? Not getting paid for that. So that all aside, on top of that, they get all the way to the end and then let you know that this whole time, without even mentioning training, they don't mention training whatsoever until the very end, which was very suspicious. Again, red flag number 4. Just as I suspected, because they didn't mention training, guess what? Training is mandatory to get the position, which is normal, but it's 3 6-hour classes that aren't paid. You don't have to pay for it, at least, like another company I try to work for. But it's 20 hours or 18 hours of your life. I lost my ability to do math there, but it's 18 hours of your goddamn life you'll never get back that you have to put towards this company before you even get paid. And then what? You might, I might do a presentation to my freaking mom and get $25 one week. Wow, 25. That is like $25 an hour technically, but it's not because of all the work you have to put in beforehand. So not even paid training. And the way they have it set up, it was like 1 training class 1 week and then 2 the other week. So it was like 2 weeks I had to wait. So anyways, what they do then is they have you fill, after all that, I actually finally fill out a job application for the first time. I didn't even fill out a job application when I applied. They just asked for a resume. That's it. And then texted me an hour later. So for the first time ever in the entire application process, interview process, literally 30 minutes into this weird group interview, that's when I officially give a job application where I give my, my work availability and all that stuff, say that I don't have a crime or I didn't do a crime, all that stuff, because I didn't. I'm crime free, unless you call being lovely a crime. What was that? But yeah, so they, at the very end, you do the job application process, and they're like, okay, so we're gonna. for one, they don't even reveal to you how many people are in this group interview. I suspect it's literally like a dozen, because they at the end of the interview they're like, okay, so we're gonna get to every one of you, and we're gonna ask you a few questions individually. Uh, for the to finish up this interview, and then they're like, we won't know what order it's in, so just sit there tight. It can be up to 30 to 40 minutes to get to you, which which really makes me think there's literally 20 fucking people there, because of the fact that, I mean, when he did my little mini interview, it was like 2-3 minutes maybe, and I had to wait 20 minutes, so do the math. And I don't think I was the last one. So after waiting 20 minutes, Buddy comes on. He's like, hey, Jack, you know what? First of all, I just want to say you were the best candidate we had. You said that to everybody you hired, buddy. I know you did. You know why I know you did? First of all, I guess because it sounds scripted the way he said it. And when I did more research after the interview, someone said they said the same thing to them. So it's just really obvious. I know it. How could I be the best candidate? Not that there's anything wrong with me. I have no sales experience though, and I literally was like petting my cat and distracted during the interview, clearly not paying attention. Like, it's so funny, man. But so he tells me I'm the best candidate there, which is a total lie. Then he offers me the job with, like, well, basically asked me, like, can you start this week? Are you okay with training that's not paid? I lie and say yes, because I just want to see what this is like. Then they're like, all right, well, if you want, you're hired. You're probably going to be one of our. You're probably going to be very successful here. You're exactly the kind of guy we're looking for. All that crap. They hire me, and then they tell me I got to go to training. If you want to start training this Thursday, so it was a Friday at the time. So 6 days from then, it would have been my training. It would have been my first class, which would have been 6 hours unpaid. And they're like, yeah, okay, so just make sure you sign the job application form. And then I'm like, okay, I'll see you later. Sounds good. And then I didn't accept the job, because why would I? I don't have time. I don't have time myself personally to, take 18 hours out of my life to train when I'm just trying to find a job so I can make ends meet to, make sure I have food on the table. Literally. I don't have time for that kind of job. So unfortunately, I did not take it. But in conclusion on this subject, at the end of the day, I just wanted to mention it because I want to say no one ever, please, ever. If you see vector marketing, don't work here. It's a waste of your time. It's basically a multi-level marketing company is what I come to understand. I'm not exactly totally familiar with what that means. I've just seen other people say that. But just please do not work for this company. It is not a good company. I have nothing personal against the knives themselves. The Cutco products are fine. I'm sure they're great, but do not work for vector marketing. Watch out. And all right, on to the next subject here. I had a shower in between subjects, so I might look a little sweaty, but the next subject here is the Edmonton Oilers are in the Stanley Cup Finals. Sorry, just adjusting my camera there. Edmonton Oilers in the Stanley Cup Finals for the first time since 2006 when they versed the Hurricanes. They lost then, unfortunately. But it is great to see them in the finals again, mainly just because once the Leafs inevitably get eliminated at the first, or if we're lucky, the second round of the playoffs, I always end up cheering for whatever Canadian teams are left. I always want the Canadian teams to win the Stanley Cup at the end of the day, because it's Canadian fans that will be happy. I know a lot of people always be like, you know that all the American teams have mostly Canadian players, right? Yeah, I know, and so do the Canadian teams. So it'd be cool if a Canadian team still won. But anyways, I just want to see Canadian fans happy. I always end up cheering for Canadian teams. I've done it since I was a kid. Only difference is when I was a kid, I used to hate the Edmonton Oilers because I was a Flames fan, but I've since the fuck? My chair just moved. I've since grown up and not given a shit about that. The only team I really dislike is Boston now, and that's only because we keep losing to them as a Leafs fan. But to get to the finals, the Oilers actually had to beat the Dallas Stars in the conference finals. Now, the Dallas Stars actually beat the last two Stanley Cup champions in Vegas and Vegas Golden Knights and the Colorado Avalanche. Sorry. They beat the last two Stanley Cup champions. So once I saw them go against Edmonton, I was like, this will be a sweep, honestly. Edmonton's not as good as those last two teams. And even if that's the case, that's not how playoff hockey works. It's not. That's what makes playoff hockey so exciting. The best team doesn't always win at the end of the day, because Edmonton was able to conquer the Dallas Stars in 6 games by playing a very defensive structure. Some of the games were the most exciting to watch. They're not as fun as some of the other playoff hockey games I've grown to love over the years, but hey, they got the job done. That's all that matters. So that's such a great example. Dallas Stars just got absolutely shut down, couldn't produce any offense, and Edmonton just was able to roll over them in 6 games. Now in the finals against the Florida Panthers, a team that's never won the Stanley Cup. The Florida Panthers made it to the finals last year, but lost to Colorado. Yeah, Colorado. Sorry, I'm starting to lose track of who's won. Or it might have been Vegas. I'm sorry. I literally am losing track of who's winning these days because A, they're always American, and B, like I mentioned in a previous podcast, I am losing my passion for hockey. These playoffs, though, are bringing it back quite a bit. Not only... Oh, and on top of the fact that the Edmonton Oilers on the final, Connor McDavid, the star player of the Oilers, one of the star players, there's like 15 of them on that team, he has the lead in overall point scoring for the entire playoffs, which is absolutely fantastic to see. A lot of people were giving him doubts, and they always have been in the playoffs, like he's just a regular season player. It turns out he's not. The Edmonton Oilers are lucky in the fact that their players do show up in the playoffs, unlike the Leafs. Except for Nylander and Matthews, they do show up. But I don't need to say too much on this subject, honestly, other than the fact that the game starts at 8 p.m. today when I'm recording. It will probably have already finished by the time I post it. I'm probably going to post this the next morning. But yeah, I'm just excited for the Edmonton Oilers into the finals, man. Like, holy Mackinac! I couldn't even sync that up, but holy Mackinac, bro! Oilers in there. Go Oilers. Go Team Canada. I'll literally frickin' run around in the streets if a Canadian team wins, though I really doubt it will happen because, unfortunately, well, I said that about Edmonton beating Dallas, so I obviously could be wrong. It's just our luck hasn't been that great because it's actually been since 1993 the last time a Canadian team won. That was the Montreal Canadiens. It's been that bloody long since a Canadian team has won, and since then, there's probably been like 6 or 7 teams in the finals. Actually, when I think about it, yeah, 5 of the 7 Canadian teams have been to the finals since then. 5 out of 7, just not Toronto or Winnipeg because they've only re-existed recently, so they have that excuse. But yeah, the Oilers did it in 2006. Montreal did it in 2020. Calgary did it in 2004. That was heartbreaking for me as a Calgary Flames fan. Who else? Ottawa did it in, I can't even remember what year that would be. 2008 maybe? Even 2007? So right after Edmonton. And who else? Oh, Vancouver too in 2011, I believe it was. Yeah, I think it was 2011. So for a while there, we had Canadian teams almost every freaking year, but yeah, we still can't do it. The odds would suggest we'll end up doing it, but not. Something happens every year. I swear we're cursed. But that, at the end of the day, in conclusion, I'm just super excited about that. Go Oilers, go. Go Canada, go. If they fail, they tried hard, but moving on to the next subject. And all right, now this is a great segue from the last one into our next subject here, which is the sports gambling in Ontario. If you live in Ontario, you'll notice recently that basically you can't watch a single sports game of any kind without having the odds shoved down your throat, constantly reminded that you need to gamble. Gamble! Gamble! That's what it's like. And the reason I want to talk about this is because I was inspired by a hockey guy, the Hockey Guy video, which is a YouTuber on YouTube that honestly I think is the best YouTuber for hockey content that there is out there. I actually prefer watching him to Sportsnet and TSN, especially these days. So shout out to them because the reason I like watching him segue into talking about TSN is you literally you know how like between periods they'll talk about, you know, like there was this play in this period. I just want to talk about why, you know, putting pressure here was great. Putting shots on net from there is great, kind of thing. Now that's completely almost gone, like completely gone. So now the intermissions are just filled with, hey, just so you know, this line's at 3.5, whatever. If you bet this within the next 20 minutes, you can make this, and this money. Or, hey, man, this is very likely that Connor McDavid's going to score. So please pick that pick. Or they'll literally have like the panel come on and be like, hey, guys, what's your bet of the day? Well, my bet of the day is fucking Toronto Maple Leafs to win by 3-1. That's like, it's all over the fucking place. It's crazy, dude. It's insane. It's so annoying. And I actually like sports gambling, so I'm not even coming at this as a hater. Ironically, though, because the sports gambling has been so in my face, I don't even sports gamble anymore. For, well, one reason, because I'm between, well, I got a job now, but I was between jobs for a while, so I can't really justify gambling, obviously. But two, even if I wasn't, I don't really feel like sports gambling anymore because it's constantly in my face. It's just annoying. So a bit of history here. Up until 2022, the only way to sports gamble in Ontario was either by going to the horse betting tracks, which I just never was interested in, or through parlays through like company called Proline, which is just a gambling thing that's directly through the government. So if you lose, you're just handing your money right over to Ontario. So there's that. That's kind of funny. But before, you were only allowed to sports gamble other than horses through Proline, through what is called parlays. Now, for people who don't gamble, what a parlay is, let's say you're like, I bet that the Maple Leafs are going to win, the Montreal Canadiens are going to win, and the Ottawa Senators are going to win tonight on a parlay. So what it does is it adds up all the odds to make the odds like greater, and then you. Oh wait, so here's a better. So yeah, what it does is you would have to, in order to make money from that bet or to win that bet, you have to have all three of those bets that I mentioned win, and you get a bunch of extra money because of it, but the chances are way lower. It's honestly really fun. It's a really fun way of gambling, but that used to be the only way to do it. The problem with that is you're way less likely to win, so it was very profitable for Ontario. So it wasn't very great for the gambler to actually make money or win from. It is fun, though, I got to admit. But ever since April 4th, 2022, that's when that changed. Sports gambling is now legal all across the board in Ontario. Now, and ever since then, like it's just absolutely been bombarding you with crap. Like I mentioned with the intermissions, you were constantly bothered about the odds in the intermissions, like I mentioned. On top of that, there's absolutely relentless gambling ads just all the time from even like celebrities and stuff. And we'll get into that in a little bit. But even from like Austin Matthews, but like sports players, Wayne Gretzky, I saw. I can't remember his name. Yeah, I saw another couple of famous actors in there. The name Jamie Foxx. There we go. I saw Jamie Foxx in one too, for Ontario, by the way, which is crazy. Like when you watch a hockey game, it's 80% ads like that. 80%. Maybe other sports games. I don't watch a lot of other sports, but it's 80% gambling ads, which is super, super irritating, even to me as someone who likes it. Like I mentioned, it makes me not want to gamble, ironically. Not only that, but like literally in the middle of the game without going to fucking commercial, sometimes they'll be like, there's a whistle. So let's say there's icing in a game. They pause for 2 seconds and literally they'll come on and be like, hey, just as we, between icing, we've got 20 seconds here. I just want to remind you that, you know, the Maple Leafs are down 3-1, but if you bet at these odds right now, you're going to make this, and this money. Now back to the game. Like they literally like on top of the ads in the commercials, there's ads during the game. And not only that, but the boards are chock full of sports gambling ads. It's insane. Like it's crazy because for people who don't live in Ontario, sports gambling was pretty illegal, other than the parlays and the horse racing, for a very long time. You would actually have to use VPNs in a lot of cases to even sports gamble online. But then they went completely 180, and they're like, okay, actually, you should basically spend gambling money you should spend your money on gambling 24/7. Now, there's multiple issues with that. Number one being the fact that if someone is a gambling addict, they can't even watch sports anymore without being reminded of it. What if you're like gambling's a very, very, very real addiction? It ruins people's lives. It ruins families' lives even. So to like say someone's addicted and they're literally like, I just want to watch fucking hockey, man. I just want to watch hockey. I don't want to sports gamble. And they turn on the TV and it's literally like immediately before the game even starts, they're like, hey, please quickly before the game starts, if you put these odds right now, you're gonna win. You're gonna win. This is my pick of the day. This is Jim Rutherford, and this is my pick of the day. And so the sports gambling addict is probably like, I don't want to fucking think about gambling, but man, I could just, I could just deposit this money maybe. That's the kind of crap that they're trying to bet on. They're trying to get the addicts back addicted, which is like, oh my god, dude, it's so frustrating. And the other issue is that you know who also watches sports a lot? Kids. Kids watch sports. In fact, I watched way more sports as a kid. So did most of my friends, even my brother. My dad even watched more sports as a kid. I'm pretty sure. Maybe not, but either way, most people watch most of their sports as a kid. So to be constantly bombarded with gambling ads on what is supposed to be a family sort of thing is crazy. I know there's beer ads and everything like that during games as well, but they're not in your face. They don't advertise. They don't stop the game to be like, hey, you know what would be great, right? I know there's an ice. What would go great with this icing on the ice right now? An ice cold beer. They don't do that. Instead, they leave it to the commercials. My issue with this is I feel like they're literally indoctrinating the kids to think gambling's normal, right? Like, let's say I'm 10, I'm constantly reminded of gambling. You should gamble, you should gamble, you should gamble. And then my parents are like, nah, man, that's an adult thing. That's an adult thing. Similar in vein to, drinking. When I was 12, I was like 10, whatever. I was like, cool, I'm going to get to drink when I get older. That's going to be the same thing with gambling. These kids are going to see gambling and be like, I can't wait to gamble, man. I'm going to become an adult. I'm going to gamble. So it's going to be like programmed in their brain before they even finish fucking goddamn growing up as an adult that sports gambling is cool and like stuff like that. And I just think it's flat out wrong. I also think it is by design. I think they're doing that on purpose, man. I really do think that the reason that they push, a huge reason why they're pushing the gambling is to get it to the kids. The kids aren't going to be able to gamble legally, but they are going to be able to eventually. And actually, there is a problem with this. Let's say for online gambling, you just have to show your ID, right? What if I have a little brother who's 15 or what if I have a little brother who's 14 and I'm like, I don't have good morals. So I set up a gambling account in my fucking name, put $50 on it and then say, hey, here, little Timmy, this is yours. There is literally nothing stopping them right there from gambling. Nothing. Other than running out of money, I guess. Because once the account's set up, they don't make you check your ID every time you make a bet, right? So, in fact, there's some websites that are sketchy enough that, and I won't give my payment information to these sites, that won't even ask for your ID. They're foreign websites, by the way, but still. And the Ontario government's encouraging that. So yeah, you could see it. Kids can totally gamble if they really try hard. They just totally can. Not only that, but what if they start gambling on the schoolyard? You never know. What the fuck? Though that wouldn't be the worst thing in the world. It'd be kind of funny. But still, it's not great. And honestly, the fact that they also just the fact that they changed their mind so drastically is suspicious to me. Like they were the Ontario government was not very pro gambling, except for with Proline, no pun intended. So for them to literally just completely change their mind, I just don't get it. Like, or it seems suspicious. Sorry, it's like they had it planned all along. There's something weird going on in the background here. I'm almost certain. Almost bloody certain. But at the end, in conclusion, it's just even though I like sports gambling, man, it's just so annoying to freaking just be. I just want to watch hockey, man. I just want to watch hockey. I don't need to be reminded of a vice that I'm trying to not use. Like, for me, I'm not addicted necessarily to gambling, but it is addicting. So every time I see that, I get the urge to gamble, right? And I don't want to. That's terrible. Like, because like I said earlier, people are addicted. So, like, there are definitely playing into that. I guarantee you there's people that are addicted to gambling that are suffering because of these ads. And at the end of the day, that is my biggest issue. Uh, Before we get into conclusion, actually, sorry about this, but I wanted to quickly mention they did pass a law in Ontario that said that celebrities and sports people are no longer allowed to advertise gambling to you. There's a big loophole in that law. If you read the fine print, they are allowed to advertise to you as long as they say you should gamble responsibly. So now what I've seen is literally like ads that are like, hey, we're BetMGM Grand. We do sports betting. And we just want to remind you to gamble responsibly. You know what that ad just did? To remind you to gamble. So it's the same fucking thing. It's just a bullcrap, classic politician law where they make it look like they did something and they really didn't. They kind of did, but didn't. So yeah. Anyways, I want to move on to the last subject either way. In conclusion, again, I just think it's a problem. I want it to go away. I don't need the sports gambling to be illegal or anything. Whatever. Let it stay. Just stop shoving it down our throats. Take the odds off the sports broadcasts. Do not put them anywhere. I think it should be illegal. Uh, but at the end of the day, I think it actually will eventually settle down, and in a couple of years, it'll be kind of back to normal. But we can move on to the more fun subject here. And into the final subject of today's podcast, leaving out on a positive note here. I'm just excited for the next 2 weekends of racing. Admittedly, actually, uh, I thought the 24 hours of Le Mans was actually this weekend. It should have started about an hour ago if that was correct, but I was wrong. It's actually next weekend, but you know what? That's kind of nice. There isn't as much happening next weekend, so I'm looking forward to that as well. I'll talk about the Le Mans a little bit later. But what I want to talk about is just this weekend in general has a couple exciting races here. Sorry, I'm just looking at my phone to pull up some of the other ones. So first of all, there is a IndyCar race at Road America, I think they are. Yeah, it's Road America this weekend, so that's going to be fun. Uh, a lot better than last week. Last week, IndyCar was at the Detroit Street Track. That track absolutely sucks for IndyCar, but unfortunately, General Motors literally pays a shitload of money to put on the show in downtown Detroit so you can, see their buildings and everything. So it's here to stay. But whatever. Road America is freaking awesome. It's one of the greatest road courses in the world. IndyCar puts on an amazing show almost every single time there, so I'm super excited to see that tomorrow. Indy Next is also on today, I think. That's like the minor league for them. On top of that, we have, there's a racing event. It's mostly sports car racing at Mid-Ohio. I probably won't watch that because I don't have like any legal access to that. And I have other things I kind of want to watch, but I might tune into that at some point, maybe. Also, on top of that, the NASCAR race at Sonoma, which I'm pretty excited about. It's one of my favorite tracks, though unfortunately, the last couple of years the races haven't been that good at that track, but that's neither here nor there. I'm still going to enjoy the NASCAR race. That's not what I'm most excited about this weekend, though. What I'm most excited about is the Canadian Grand Prix for Formula One. It'll be on at 2 p.m. Tomorrow, June 9th. It's June 8th when I'm recording this. And I'm super excited. So the Canadian Grand Prix takes place on an island in Montreal. The track basically goes around the entire island. I'll even leave a little track map on the screen there if I remember. And it has always been a classic. Not only is it my home race because I'm from Canada, so that's exciting, but it has had a lot of races that have been classics in the past, up until about 2018. It has had some amazing races. The track lends itself to some really good overtaking and tight racing. There's not very much runoff. It's just very exciting. The only issue is in the last few years, the cars are quite big, so passing there has been quite the challenge. Sometimes it makes it a fun race. Last year, it wasn't that fun, but it's in Canada, so I'm just going to enjoy the vibe the whole time. And unlike NASCAR, Formula One is only like an hour and a half. NASCAR is like 7 trillion hours sometimes. So even if the race is boring, it's over nice and quick, which I appreciate with Formula One. So I'm super, super excited about that because also Red Bull, has been dominating the last couple of years, but McLaren has sort of seemingly caught up to them. So there's actually a chance that McLaren will challenge for the win, and that would be amazing. I would love to see McLaren win on my home track. I'd love to see Lance Stroll win on my home track, but Lance Stroll is kind of a mid driver, and also the Aston Martin sucks this year, which is the team he drives for. His dad owns that team too, but the Aston Martin sucks this year, unfortunately. But what I'm also excited about mostly is next weekend. I was going to be excited this weekend, but whatever. It happens. I mixed up the dates. So next weekend, June 15th at 10 a.m. Eastern Time, the 24 Hours of Le Mans is on. Now, for non-racing fans, whenever you mention that it's a 24-hour race, they immediately probably get intimidated, and it's like, and I don't blame them. It's like, how do you end up watching an entire 24-hour race? For one, I usually don't watch the whole thing. I try to watch most of it, but I do like sleep. But there's just something about it. It's more of like a day event, you know? Like you go and there's some event happening in the background. I can tune in and out. I can go watch, number 33s on board. Like they'll have a camera inside the cockpit view. I can watch that for an hour, then switch over to that. It's just sort of a vibe, man. And the commentators do a really good job of constantly updating you on what's happening. It's such a spectacle because of winning the 24 Hours of Le Mans race is an amazing achievement in racing. So to see the passion and everything that everyone has, every team has for the race is absolutely fantastic. You can see the ups and downs, the emotions of when people win or lose. It's just so exciting. And how the 24 Hours of Le Mans works is, there isn't just one guy in each car that drives the whole 24 hours, though that was almost done once. There was 1 year where a guy drove 23 hours and 30 minutes and had I think he was only a 13 or 14-year-old son race while he took a shit. Like, genuinely. He just had to take a shit. That's the only reason he had to stop. But since then, they've made rules for obvious reasons that you can't drive over a certain time because you're going to fall asleep and kill someone or yourself. So how it works is it's usually teams of 3 or 4, and each driver might do like 2 hours, then take a break for a few hours, and someone else goes in. So the teams can be made up of all kinds of people, too. Some teams will be made up of Formula One car drivers. Last year, they actually had a team that was a NASCAR. They had a modified NASCAR entering in, which was Jenson Button was one of the drivers, Formula One, and one sports car driver and one former NASCAR driver in Jimmy Johnson. They've had other former NASCAR drivers as well race in it, but it usually ends up being like a congregation of a bunch of different racing disciplines, from IndyCar to Formula E to sports car racing. They all come together for this race. It is a massive event, and it's just a huge deal. So I'm super excited about that. Honestly, even for anyone who watches racing, I strongly recommend giving it a chance, man. Watch some of the prep videos, because there's a bunch of prep videos that people usually do right before the event itself, the race itself, on YouTube, that will give you a rundown who the teams are, who the drivers are, all the stuff like that. So I strongly recommend watching videos like that, even if you're not a racing fan. Maybe give it a chance. Those videos might actually give you a team you want to see win, and as soon as you have that, it gives you a lot more reason to watch. You can have your emotions invested in it, which makes you want to stick around. To elaborate more on what makes the race so exciting too is obviously the weather is completely unpredictable. It might rain halfway through. There's all kinds of crazy stuff. Your car can break down after 20 hours. Sometimes your brakes fail, and you literally have to change your brakes for 20 minutes and lose 50 positions. Like, Not only that, it goes from day to night to day again. So you have to deal with that. Sunset and sundown is absolutely blinding in some certain parts of the track for drivers. So there's that. Nighttime driving is very intimidating as well. At night, you obviously can't see the track as well, so you're kind of relying more on muscle memory as to where to turn, which can be very scary. Even in racing video games, I find it scary. So for the drivers, I can't imagine how crazy that is. And the nighttime's actually my favorite part of the race because the aesthetics are so cool. The way it works is all the cars will have bright lights all over, like bright lights on certain parts of the cars, so they're very easy to see at night. That way, when people are passing, they'll run into each other. On top of that, you can see their numbers and everything glowing for the viewer, so you can see who's where and everything. And I forgot to mention at the beginning who's racing in Le Mans. I bet you're wondering who is racing in Le Mans. So how it works is there's multiple classes. Forgive me, I can't remember how many there are, but let's say there's 4, for example. So there'll be one class that's the lowest, maybe GT4. Then they'll probably have GT3 Amateur and GT Pro as well. I think there's probably going to be like 6 or 7 classes. They're like the slower sports cars. And then on top of that, they'll probably, I don't know if they have LMP3 or not, but they will have LMP2, but probably LMP3 and 2, which are prototype cars that are faster than the GT3 cars. And then I had to look up, for some reason the name slipped my mind, but the top class is called Hypercar. They're even faster. Not only are they way faster, they look absolutely badass. I'm going to give you some examples here as I continue talking, maybe up in the corner, because I think they're some of the coolest looking cars of all time, but they're also super fast. So you'll notice that, like I said, there's different classes, right? And a lot of them are faster than the others. So if, let's say you're in the hypercar class, you're going to be constantly passing cars that are going like 30, 40, maybe 100 miles per hour slower than you. So you're going to be not only racing people in your class, but weaving in and out of traffic. It's just, there's never not action at Le Mans. It's constant action. So for the slower cars too, you have to be very aware of the cars going faster than you. You can't just, turn in without looking. You have to be in your mirror, looking in your rear view mirror constantly. So it's just, you're on your toes for that as well. And then on top of that, one of my favorite things to do is at night, they have, in general, they'll probably have about a dozen or so onboard cameras. So they'll have cameras inside individual cars that you can watch 24, I almost said 24/7, but just 24 hours because that's how long the race is. But 24 hours, you can watch on the onboard view of certain cars for the entire 24 hours. So one of my favorite things to do is to simply, when it's nighttime there in the middle of the night in Le Mans, I'll put a onboard on my laptop, let's say, because it's actually free, by the way, for Canadians. I'll put my onboard of a car on my laptop and literally watch it for like an hour straight, just watching his view. Usually one of the faster cars, so I can watch him weave in and out of traffic. Maybe I can watch a battle for the lead. It's just so intense from their perspective, especially with these amazing HD cameras they have these days. So in conclusion, I am super excited about next weekend. Still really excited about this weekend. The qualifying for Formula One starts in about an hour or so, I believe. Maybe longer. I haven't looked it up, but it should start soon. So I'm just super excited about that. I recommend anyone, honestly, giving Le Mans a try. It is free for anyone as long as you know how to find the right streams. Before we conclude today's podcast, I just want to give you guys my album of the week. This time, it is 16-Bit Adventure by Amied. I'm not sure, Amied? I might be mispronouncing that, but this week, this album is quite a bit different from the previous ones because this 16-Bit Adventure is actually made by a YouTuber named GeoWizard, who happens to be my favorite YouTuber of all time, honestly. He's the one that I watch every single one of his videos. He makes geography videos. He makes videos on the game GeoGuessr. He's basically like a YouTube channel made for me. Now, 16-bit adventure, like I mentioned, is his original music that he actually uses on his channel. He uses it for his videos, which adds a very nice adventure feel to them. And I just feel like this album is just great for putting on in the background while you're studying, maybe, or going on a walk. It's not too offensive, but also just very lovely. Like, it really feels like an old video game music. It's not going to blow your mind or anything. It's just some really simple music that's nice to put on the background. So I really recommend that as just something for you to give as a quick try. It's not going to blow your mind, but it's really good. Again, though, shout out to GeoWizard. You're one of my biggest inspirations. Please give that album a try. I honestly will probably put one of the songs as an example in the background right now as I'm talking, because last time I checked, he doesn't copyright strike these songs, which is also really cool of him. Anyways, though, I hope this podcast didn't go on too long this time. I feel like I kind of... But anyways, this is the end of the podcast for today. I had a few more points that I didn't quite get into, so if there's anything I missed in any of my subjects that you would like me to discuss, please mention it in the comments, and maybe I will reply to them on a later date. But for the time being, please just enjoy the rest of your day, and like and subscribe if you want to see more of this podcast. I'm gonna be posting it more regularly, hopefully twice a week. You guys have a great day. And into the final subject of the week, there's... And...